The Ten Commandments monument was removed from the Oklahoma State grounds, and Governor Brown in California, of course, signed the assisted suicide bill into law. One of the leading religious leaders in America is fired up about both of these issues. He is the National Director of Priests for Life and the author of Abolishing Abortion. Father Frank Pavone, welcome to America Trends.
Dr. Gina, it's so good to be with you. Thanks for having me tonight.
Really good to have you. Father, I first want to ask you about the assisted suicide bill that Governor Jerry Brown signed into law. A lot of chatter about that going on social media, and I see many people saying that this is a humane and pain-free way to end the life of a terminally ill person on their own terms. What do you say to that, Father Pavone?
Certainly we can understand why this seems to be an attractive issue to so many people, and we can say these people are truly trying to be compassionate. Why should we prevent somebody from escaping suffering? But when we start thinking about that for a moment, a few other questions arise. Why this law, for example, kicks in when one is expected to die within 6 months? Well, what about the person who's expected to die within a year, or 2 years, or 7 months? In other words, there are always limits on our freedom and on our desire to escape suffering. I'm sure the governor does not want to shut down all the suicide hotlines in California. But then again, when you think about it, who's to say that one person's suffering is worse than another's? Who's to say that one type of suffering, let's say the physical suffering that is expected to bring death in 6 months, is worse than somebody's emotional suffering, a broken relationship, a financial crisis? Why shouldn't these people be allowed to escape their suffering by doctor-prescribed suicide? It opens up a whole host of questions that nobody, including the governor, has adequately answered.
Well, one of the arguments, Father Pavone, as you know, is this whole death with dignity argument, right? And I understand the thought of that, but I guess the thing that I have to think about is that death, putting dignity in death, helping to inject dignity in death isn't always easy. Someone is at their most weakened state, obviously, as they approach the door to death many times, at least from a physical standpoint. So then what is to preclude, Father, someone from, muscling someone into dying faster because maybe they have an inheritance or an insurance thing, or even maybe they're just tired of them being around, or worse, what is to preclude the system, specifically Obamacare, from saying, hey, you know what, this person's going to die anyway. Let's just go ahead and assist them with all that dignity. Let's just give them that dignity, and we'll move on to the next person who isn't costing the system quite as much. What's to preclude that slippery slope effect?
Yes, and that's a very good question, because as soon as we have a right, then other people are going to push us to responsibly exercise that right. You know, I knew Mother Teresa of Calcutta, and as we know, she helped many people to die with dignity. The dignity that she, and today all her sisters throughout the world, help people to die with, is the dignity of knowing, A, that they are not alone, and B, that no matter what their condition or their dependency or their pain, they are still valuable, they are not forgotten, they are still full members of the human community. That's what we mean by dying with dignity, not giving somebody a drug that's going to end their life. The law puts a clear boundary between somebody dying and somebody making someone die. And the governor has made a big mistake here and has crossed that line which defines civilization itself.
But let's cut a little deeper and let's talk some turkey here. Can we do that? Because for me, what I see here, Father Pavone, isn't really about anybody dying with dignity. What I see is a death-driven agenda that is wanting to take life from its very conception all the way into the very end and put it in the hands of a government that frankly has a lifeboat theory. How far off am I?
No, that's very true. We see this calculus going on. We've seen people defend assisted suicide and euthanasia precisely based on economic calculations. If you read the various books and court decisions that are written in favor of this, we see that exact reasoning. And it's the same reasoning that many have offered to defend the wholesale slaughter of children in the womb by abortion on demand. When human life becomes subject to economic considerations, then we're all in trouble.
When we're looking the other way, though, on an organization that is funded by our tax dollars. Every single day, $1.5 million goes to an agency that is a private agency that is selling baby parts. I mean, do you really expect people to care what happens to an old person? I'm trying to be realistic here. I just wonder how much people care anymore.
No, that's right. All these problems are interrelated. You know, if people defend the slaughter of these babies by saying, oh, it's my body, it's my choice, it's my life, well, then you're going to defend the slaughter of older or sick people by saying, and pretending that they're saying, oh, this is my body, my choice, my death. It's the same philosophy, but it's masquerading. It's covering over this drive to death that you're describing, fueled by selfishness, by economics, and by despair. This is not about freedom of choice. It's about despair. And these are the deeper issues that we have to address.
Yeah, and I think even one deeper issue that churches need to address, and I'm sure that you have, is that it's sort of the natural Christian instinct to trust and to believe people and take what they say at face value. I'm not so sure that those politicians advocating this are concerned at all about death with dignity. At all. No,
that's right. No, I agree with you. And, you know, that came home to me personally very strongly in the case of Terri Schiavo, being with her and seeing her die. I was one of the few people in her room. That was not death with dignity. That was not beautiful and peaceful. It was horrifying and violent.
Yeah, thank you for reminding us of that. One other story, I just want to get your quick opinion on, we're almost out of time. The story out of Oklahoma. Workers removed the 10 Commandments monument from the state capitol grounds. My opinion, when it needs to be there more than ever. Father Pavone, you and I agree this nation is a nation based on the law of the Bible. So what do you say to someone who says that a religious monument has no place on public grounds? Quickly, if you can. I'm sorry, we're almost out of time.
Okay, the commandments forbid stealing and killing. Are we going to say those can take place on public property now and not on private property where the monument can go? It's trying to split too much. Our nation is built on those moral principles.
It certainly is. Father, thank you so much for being such an advocate for the things that so sacredly you and I hold in common and so desperately this nation needs right now. Thank you.
So good to be with you.
Good to have you. Coming up next, our rapid fire.